So did 11 die in the Stranger Things finale? Well, I have the definitive answer. Hey everybody, Colton here, and my friends, I have received many emails and comments and tweets asking me if 11 died in that Stranger Things finale. Now, last night I did a review discussion type video where I discussed that very question, and right as it got up to about 200 views, I was like, and I pulled it. Why? Well, I was tired and I realized watching it back that I had missed a few things, misunderstood a few things. I just wasn't happy with it. And after rewatching and kind of pondering the scene a little more and the episode itself, and actually having had time to digest it a bit, I think I now know what actually happened in the finale. So 11, she kills Vecna. They save the kids, the Abyss stops moving toward Hawkins, everyone gets back to Hawkins, goes through the rift, and the wormhole that is the Upside Down that connects these two worlds, it is set to blow up. Now, originally, Callie's plan was for her and 11 to remain in the Upside Down when it blew. That way, they would die with it, and the government or military or whatever could not use them for experiments anymore and make more children like them, and the suffering would just finally stop. Now, that plan changes when Callie gets shot earlier in the episode. Now, what we see happen in that final moment, it's really not even the final moment because there's like a 40-minute epilogue to this finale. But those final moments with 11, the military surround them as they come out of the rift, and they have those siren, things, kind of like what they use on the Hulk as well in the MCU. So the military, they have those things that make 11 and people like her with her powers, like Callie, it makes them collapse to the floor, hold their ears, and they can no longer use their powers when in the presence of those sirens letting off those sonic sounds or whatever. So somehow 11, she's not being affected by the presence of those sirens after we've seen already just in this episode how she reacts to those same very sirens. She's not being affected by them. And she is able to make her way over to the rift and even jump into Mike's mind and tell him goodbye before then remaining in the Upside Down as it blows up and collapses in on itself and the wormhole is forever closed and 11 dead with it. But later in the episode, Mike, when at graduation, he hears this weird frequency in the speakers that makes him remember the presence of those sirens that were blaring that night that 11 supposedly died. And he comes up with the theory that 11 could not have been standing there in that rift using her powers to tell him bye in the presence of those sirens. So she must have actually escaped underground, safe from the sirens, and then once there used her powers to go into Mike's mind and tell him bye. While what we were seeing in the rift was a mere illusion being cast by Callie, which we saw her do earlier in the episode, and the theory is that she was still holding on to life and able to cast this illusion from miles away back at the Hawkins lab in the Upside Down. Now, this whole theory of Mike's, it has some major holes in it. One, how would Mike know about this ability that Callie holds? Well, on the surface, at first, you would think, oh, he doesn't, because he doesn't know that scene happened. But theoretically, 11 would know about Callie's ability to essentially cast illusions in one's mind. And theoretically, Elle may have, told Mike about her sister's abilities prior to the events of this episode, essentially telling Mike about her sister's ability to cast a projection spell like in D&D and an invisibility spell. And Mike is using all of that information that he may know from 11 to come up with this theory that she was able to escape. It's also possible that maybe 11 even told Mike on their truck ride out of the Upside Down about her encounter with Vecna and how Callie died and how she cast that illusion to make sure that the kids could see that Vecna was the bad guy. Maybe 11 told him about all of that in the truck, or has told him about her sister's abilities previously. But I will say that is a lot of maybes and what ifs. Plus, at this point, Callie should be dead. So I initially thought when Mike told the group his theory at the end of the episode, and they all choose to believe that she is alive. And, we see these shots of 11 alive at the three waterfalls. I took that as them just being hopeful. that 11 is actually alive, and that those shots of 11 were just how Mike envisions her living her life right now. And Mike's whole theory is that she just had to pretend to be dead to protect herself, her friends, and other kids from getting experimented on, and she has to go into hiding forever. But I was kind of leaning toward the more cynical view of that in reality, she did actually die, and Mike and everyone else are just grasping at straws to cope with the fact that she is dead. But then I thought about it a little more, and I think it is kind of a nice touch to have it essentially be a choose your own adventure kind of thing for the audience. It's up to interpretation, which is very D&D. So then I was kind of on that belief for a little bit, that there is no definitive answer necessarily. Like in the Duffer Brothers' heads, maybe it is like truly up to interpretation. They have not decided which is what really happened. But then after I thought about it and rewatched the scene, I do not think it's up to interpretation. I think Mike is spot on. Well, almost spot on. He is right that 11 should not have been able to use her powers and go into his mind like that with those sirens around. So I do think that he is right that 11 was elsewhere, underground, where it's dark. Remember that she needs pitch darkness to do that thing where she goes into someone's mind. And from there, I think that is where she told him bye. And the tears were, of course, real because she knows that she's never going to see him again and that he has to believe that she is dead or her plan will backfire because he'd never stop looking for her and it would put him in danger and the military would follow Mike as he tried to find her. So that all makes sense. But the part where I think Mike is wrong, and this is just my speculation, my headcanon, since we're being given this, choose your own adventure, what do you think happened? I don't think Callie was the one projecting that illusion. That illusion was very, I don't know, we got like these close up, like tight shots on 11's face. And I think that was genuinely her, not physically her there in that moment, but I do think 11 was making that same face elsewhere as she was the one casting this projection. I think 11, who roughly has the same powers as Callie, I think she is casting this illusion herself. I think that she was desperate enough that she was able to finally crack that part of her abilities. And look, before you at me, yes, I know that they don't have the exact same powers, but their powers come from the same place and are connected, theoretically, like they're all like mind-based powers. So theoretically, if you master like your full potential with these powers, you could master like every aspect of the full scope of these mind-based powers. So I think that yes, 11 is alive because Mike is spot on that she shouldn't have been able to get into his mind and tell him bye with those sirens blaring the way they were. The only thing I disagree on is that I think 11 was the one that cast that illusion herself. And I'm also not sold on the idea that she has made it, to wherever and she's looking at 3 waterfalls and all that. I think that is perhaps in Mike's head. I think that 11, look, we know 11 is very accustomed to living in solitude, living alone, living in hiding. I wouldn't be surprised if she's still somewhere in Hawkins or, has made her way like through like backwoods and stuff around Indiana and like found another place to be, and that she is living like on the run as someone else. That would tie into like we've seen 11 wear wigs and stuff. That's actually a series I would like to see. It's like an 11 series. So maybe in a few years, we'll get to see that. We'll learn that she's alive. We'll learn that Mike was right to an extent, but it wasn't Callie that cast the projection. It was 11 that cast it. And 11's not like, off living this peaceful life looking at waterfalls and stuff. She is actually just in hiding. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about the finale. I overall enjoyed it. Went over to my mom's, I brought a pizza, and we had a fun time watching it. Nice little New Year's Eve. All right. Happy New Year, everyone, and I'll see you soon. Bye.